Seats ready to go, 1 and a 2 and a 3. That's Lawrence Welk, right? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the next speaker is from Iran, and it's not Saddam Hussein. I'll tell you a little bit about Saddam Hussein. I'll take a little bit of Peymon's time. You remember that picture of him coming out of the trap door, and in the background was a fig tree? They said he was apprehended in December. In December, the figs on the fig tree are always dark brown or black. In that picture, the figs were yellow. That tells you that was a staged picture, no question about it. Anyway, back to Peymon. Peymon, I've known Peymon for a number of years. He's asked me to a number of his conferences, for which I'm grateful. He's a man who is totally dedicated to the cause, our cause, spreading freedom, saving our country, exposing the corruption at all levels. And although he's from Iran, he's probably as great an American as I've ever known. And he is an American today, of course. But anyway, it's with a great deal of pleasure that I'm introducing Peymon, who is the host of this fantastic conference. And congratulations on the conference and on your job, Peymon.
Thank you, Ted. My introducer forgot to tell you who he is. That's Ted Gunderson, who is the former head of the FBI offices in Memphis, Dallas, and Los Angeles. And since his retirement, he discovered more corruption than he ever knew that he was not aware of inside the FBI and the government. And now he's one of the most famous whistleblowers out there, and you're going to be hearing from him tomorrow. So those of you who came for one day, I highly recommend you consider coming for 2 days, and don't miss out on Ted or other speakers we have for you tomorrow. How's the conference been so far, by the way? Yeah? Now, if everybody just brings one person back with them tomorrow, at least the local people, we can fill up the place, overfill, right? So don't think, when at 6 o'clock when you're done, you can go call one person or two people, bring them with you tomorrow, right? Especially young people, because it's free to anybody 21 and under this event. Because we are trying to do what we need to do to get America back. Folks, the title of my speech, of course, as you know, is How You Can Live Free of IRS Harassment and Robbery with Knowledge, Preparation, and Support. Now, of course, it's about live free of government corruption and tyranny overall. I just happen to want to talk about the IRS part because that's the one agency that touches the most number of people in America. People get traffic tickets, things happen with zoning and regulation and all kinds of stuff. But IRS is what really affects just about everybody, doesn't it? So that's why I focus on that issue, because I think that's the something to wake people up now in a big way. Although, quite frankly, I think some things like Ted Gunderson and David Von Kleist and William Rodriguez, others talk about deep criminality in our government, like the 9/11 tragedy, being that the government is completely lying, if not complicit in that, is even more important. Because, we got to get America back to its roots. And what is America's roots? Well, let's talk about my roots first and then compare that to America's roots to start beginning with. I was raised in a Jewish family in Iran, and my family was very much into politics. As a 6, 7, 8-year-old child, when we had family gatherings, we didn't talk about sports and soap operas and movies and automobiles like a lot of people in America do. We talked about what affects us. What's going on with the Iranian politics at the time, Shah of Iran, the Arab-Israeli conflict, the East versus West conflict, America and the Soviet Union. And I started reading newspapers at the age of 6, 7, as soon as I could read. And I then never stopped reading. And when I was in the 6th grade, my dad one time warned me about talking to my friends about the government corruption and criminality. Because the fact that my friend or my friend's father could have been a government spy for the Iranians' secret service, Savak, that they hear about that, they could try to, pick me up and we could get in trouble. And I know what that meant. That meant we could be jailed for a long time, or tortured, or tried, executed, whatever. That did happen to people that I heard about. And in America we don't have that, fortunately. Not yet, at least. Not if I have anything to do with it. And then after the revolution, I was here. I was 14 when I came to America in 1977, but one of my relatives was also tortured, executed, as I told the audience on Friday, in jail. And after he went to visit the jail to pick up my other relatives, distant relatives, a body from that he had killed him. They executed the other guy. They executed one. My uncle goes to get the body. They put him in jail and torture him too. We don't have that in America, and we should not have that in America. America is supposed to be a free country. So things got worse with Ayatollah Khomeini, of course, as I just described to you, with the so-called Islamic Godly Republic of Iran. His hypocrites claim that they were acting on behalf of God. They got direction connection to God with their hip pocket. What they say, what God says. So, given that, I was very glad to be an American. Well, I came to my level one level of awareness about government corruption in the early 80s in my economics classes in university, when I found out that America does not have a free enterprise system like we're supposed to. And I joined. I looked in the Libertarian Party right away, and I thought that's my party, because the Democrats and Republicans are two sides of the same coin. So-called liberals and conservatives. Two parts of the same coin. If you're really for freedom, you stand for freedom. And since the label of the old classic liberals like Thomas Jefferson was stolen by the socialists by the 1930s, liberals had to come up with a new label for themselves, because liberal meant originally generous, right? Liberally, you can do what you want, generous, right? Open, free. They came up with the label of libertarian. But I did not get involved in the party until I became a citizen in 1989, so I could vote and I could get involved in politics, because I did not have a right to get involved in the civil process. I could not make a difference at the time. So when I could make a difference, I looked up the Libertarian Party once again, became an activist right away, and went to groups on the left and right, like gun rights groups on the right, and hemp legalization groups on the left, and say, look guys, y'all talking about the same thing. The freedoms that the government's taken from us. Your pet peeve is this, their pet peeve is that. It's all the same thing, come together, and I found out also all these these grassroots groups were made up of real people, real citizens. And all the Democrats and Republican parties are controlled both by the big money banks and corporations who pay money to their major candidates and the political parties and control the machinery of both. Years later, through the freedom movement, I verified for myself that the major media is also controlled in Iran, no different than Iran. See, if you want to control the people, you got to control what people hear and see. Okay? And in all third world dictatorship, the government controls it. In America, it doesn't work that way. There's a little bit of difference. See, in Iran, the government directly controls the media. In America, it's different. In America, you have the government, and the media. But you see, the media and the government are both owned and controlled by the same super rich banks and corporation who own the media and the government, both, the politicians, all of them. So I thought that's the difference in America. LA Times, New York Times, Time Magazine, Newsweek, ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, they're all the same. Fox, same thing. Which is the reason why I very much appreciate the American Free Press, because they're the largest, most independent of freedom papers in America, and they really get the truth out. That's why they co-sponsor these events. And if you have not checked them out, AmericanFreePress.net is their website. You have table on the back and outside. You ought to get a sample issue. I encourage you strongly to become a subscriber to them, like I am myself, because you're not going to get the news like this, like you're hearing this weekend, any place else except American Free Press on a regular weekly basis. You owe it to yourself and your family to know what's going on. If you think you need to hear this event, this information, you just can't wait to do it once a year. You need to get this information every week. So subscribe to American Free Press, folks, while you're here this weekend, and tell your friends, get extra copies, pass them out, sample copies, get them interested. We've got to have an alternative media means of reaching people. That's why, again, I said we need your email addresses so that we can be in touch with you. One person on my database says, Peymon, I'm a businessman. I don't want government to be on any database. I said, I don't care. Give me whatever you want. Joe Smith. Give me Jose Gonzalez, whatever name. Just make sure if you move, give me your change of address for Joe Smith or Jose Gonzalez, so I don't waste my postage. Okay. So we got to do that. But before I go on, I want to mention to you all that you all received a copy of this yellow True False brochure. Everybody got it in the back? This is about fully informed juries, about your right as jurors to veto bad laws by saying not guilty. You need to get these brochures and pass them out to your friends, relatives, neighbors. You never know when it's going to be you the one that's in a jury trial, and the guy you passed this on to 4 years ago, 5 years ago, remembered what's on here, ended up on your jury, ended up saying not guilty in your case. Okay? Get this out, because all you need is 1 out of 12 jurors that says not guilty, and you will go free. So read these True or False brochures from Fully Informed Jury Association, and you've done yourself and your country a great favor by talking to people about that. So, after several years of involvement with the Libertarian Party, I heard about the income tax being voluntary on a radio program on KFI in Los Angeles area, one of the largest talk radio programs. Took the number of the person that was on the show. Went to a meeting. There was only 4 people. I was amazed. There was not more people on there. I thought, wow, isn't everybody interested in learning more about money and taxes? I mean, this person said it's voluntary. I don't think so. I think everybody, if it was voluntary, why would people volunteer? But I'm here to check it out. I'm here curious, get more information. It never hurts to have an open ear and a mind, does it? You learn by keeping an open mind. Closed minds don't learn anything more, do they? They think they know it all. So I went to the meeting, and I was blown away. I remember clearly, and I have the records of it, some of the stuff that really got my attention was that on the 1040 booklet itself that the IRS puts out, it tells you that we may share the information you give us on your 1040 income tax confession return form to states, localities, foreign governments. And I thought, wow. Means they may give my information to any country in the world, including Iran. They might be in good relations with them now, but I badmouth the Ayatollahs all the time in Iran. What if the relations go good with Iran and they do report me to them? I give that information up voluntarily. And then another part of the presentation I got, they said, Bud, you have a Fifth Amendment right not to give any information to the government that may be used against you in a criminal kind of a case. And, of course, you give the information on your 1040 income tax confession form voluntarily. That's what they use it against you. In criminal tax crimes, they use all that against you because you supposedly gave that information voluntarily. And I never heard of the Fifth Amendment before. I said, what's that? Well, I tell you what, ask my roommate, he's a teacher. And my roommate said, yeah, there's probably one a copy in the back of the history book I got. Sure enough, I got that history book. In the back of it was a copy of the Constitution, went to the Fifth Amendment, and read it, and I said, wow, I never knew that. And I have a bachelor's degree in business administration. I took business law classes twice. I was never taught such a basic, simple thing. Of course, as you know, O.J. Simpson didn't testify in his criminal case because of the Fifth Amendment. So I thought, wow. Well, and there was more, so I said, you know what? We're going to take America back. Because in Iran, if you speak about government corruption and criminality and lies, you go to jail. You get tortured, executed, who knows what. In America, we have the right to free speech. We have the right to associate with like-minded people like this. We have a right to put our beliefs in writing and orally, have meetings like this, and get it out in the open, folks. You know, let's do something about it. Let's get our government back, get our country back. We can do that without being punished. That was one of the essential things that makes America America. And, you know, we got to use that to get the rest of our rights back. Yes! Yes. So I became an activist and started, you know, getting whatever I could get my hand on. So I did that. I was amazed at how many people were not interested in the truth. How many people were satisfied with the status quo. They didn't care to take the time to know the truth. They just want to drink beer and watch soap operas, or too busy with everyday life, and, you know, watching sports. Or they were afraid, or I realized that some of those people were literally semi-illiterate. They really can't read, and they don't want to tell you. They don't want to tell you, I hardly ever read. That's the truth, folks. You'd be amazed. I read a statistic in a paper recently in USA Today that said that only 1 out of 7 Americans has enough math and English skills to compare the price of 2 cans of soup in supermarkets. Different sizes, different prices, to be able to do that. Most people can't do something simple like that. So I took everybody's material out there I could get my hand on in the freedom movement. You know, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, any book, video, DVD, well, those no DVD, but videos, live seminars, tapes. There was no internet back then, so you had to go to live seminars like this to learn about what's going on out there. And I was amazed that these meetings and groups in the freedom movement were happening. I thought, wow, in Iran we had a freedom movement underground. In Soviet Union you had the freedom movement underground. During the Second World War in France they had the French resistance freedom movement underground, right? In America we got a freedom movement above ground, but for practically it's underground because the major media and the government ignore it. So the average person doesn't know about its existence. And I thought, wow, if you have that, that tells you we're no longer free. That by itself, that the fact that we have to have meetings like this to come together and discuss and research and evaluate these problems about government problems with the corruption and criminality, the lack of freedom, that tells you we're not free. More reason why we got to act to do something about it. And so I started teaching classes, and I told people, you know, it was Julia back then, Ross. Someone like, you want to stand up, Julia? Right there, that lady in the back. You see the pretty blonde lady and the kids. She's one of the first people that came to our classes back in 1994 with the husband. You know, we just, where's Ross? Ross is right there. Collect $5 a piece, you know, just help us cover the cost of copies. And we're going to bring you to our level of ignorance about the law, you know. At least you know a little bit more than you knew back then now, okay? So everything kind of grew from there. You know, somebody gave me a mailing list of 100 people, said take over Peymon because I don't have the time to stay in touch with these people. And I start telling people, you want to be in touch? You know, give me your information. That's how many of you end up on our mailing list. You guys contacted us, didn't you? At some point, you contact the Freedom Law School, came across me, we send you information package, or came across the promotions in America Free Press or something, so we did that, and those classes grew and grew because what I did is I developed a 2-month program where once a week we would teach a class from 7:30 to 10:30 at night, and about different areas of law and freedom. And by doing it once a week, you have time to go home and absorb that material, come back next week fresh and new and excited and ready for more. Now, as I did those classes, the wonderful thing about it was that when I found out I was teaching wrong stuff, and I was teaching wrong stuff and good stuff, both, I got rid of the wrong stuff and put in the better stuff in there. It was a laboratory, experimentation. Because I knew there's a saying that says, seek the truth and the truth shall set you free. I knew that was the case. My father, as he taught me when I was a young child, Peymon, always seek knowledge. So I lived by that. I said, I'm going to find out, and I sorted through. Freedom Prize Society was the very first group I met that really had its head together, screwed on right, had good information, solid information. Sean O'Connor standing right there is one of my teachers. Let's give him a hand right there. Okay, for his support of Freedom Law School. And Professor Dave Valentin, you want to stand up, please, Dave, right there, the black gentleman you see there. Here's another one right there. Okay, with the help of these individuals and more who generously supported me and Freedom Law School, and helping us, build this organization right, not to make dumb mistakes, and learn from the mistakes of those that came before us. We were able to build this thing right, because I knew that the reason the freedom movement was not winning in one part was because people kept making the mistakes of the guys that came before them. Okay, and of course I've seen it happen again and again. And the experience of these more experienced gentlemen and Dan Pilla and others was able to help me not to make those mistakes and develop this curriculum really right and solid, so much that I started getting really compliments. One of my students in 1994 who got the tapes of the class, which is right here, this is it, our level 1 course, told me, Peymon, your stuff was the best stuff I've ever come across of anybody. And I took lots of people's material. That was in 1994. I said, really? Are you serious? He said, yeah. I mean, this is great stuff you put together. Because what I did is I picked the best stuff from best people and put it together, basically. That's what I did. So I thought, wow, maybe I should keep this thing going. So I was able to go full-time in 1996 because I gave myself 3 years to become a lawyer without going to law school. Because my libertarian attorney friends, 2 of them, discouraged me from going to law school because they said, basically, Peymon, you're going to go in there, you have no money of your own, your dad's broke, you're going to go in there with $100,000 of little government loans, come out, and you have to work many years to pay it off. I said, well, I don't believe in government loans, and I don't want to do it. I don't want to be indebted to them. So, and they said, and my friends also told me, by the way, you know a lot more already about the income tax and the Constitution that we know now. Think about that. And these guys went to law school. And since then, I've come across many other lawyers who tell me that. In fact, I was in Board of Equalization today, and I saw this attorney who was a client of mine. I was helping him with this tax case, and he's an experienced trial lawyer. He says, we don't learn none of this stuff in law school. And I've been a practicing attorney for many years. Where'd you learn all this stuff? So just by reading the law. It's right there. But I had good help. People like Dave Valentin, Sean O'Connor, others helped me, and get a good start. So it's been a lot of fun for me because things kind of start, growing for us. But I want to share with you some important tips about your discovery for freedom. If you're really interested in freedom, Freedom Law School put out this information package to help you in that process. One of the things we're going to be doing more of, and we already started, is that in your information package, all of you have the speech of Joe Bannister, the ex-IRS special agent, on audio CD for free to listen and pass on to your friends. And this colorful CD cover says, IRS agent exposes IRS fraud. And there's a picture of Joe with a gun in his hand and enticing for someone to listen to. We have passed out close to 20,000 of these speeches at no charge. And we decided to do more. You know, we spent many thousands in advertising in different magazines and all that. And I decided the best advertising is you. Everybody here today, I want you to know you are our ambassador, our freedom. Realize it or not. As much as maybe 9 out of 10 people you talk to say, I'm not interested in freedom, guess what? Now, 1 out of 10, like Ross said, is interested in freedom because you were 1 out of 10, weren't you? You were. When someone told you about this, you said, what? I'm going to have to check this out some more. And read or came to a meeting, right? So we're going to give you more tools to put out. One of them is, for example, a speech of Ed Griffin about how banks control and rob Americans, about the Federal Reserve System. This is the best speech and one shot that, that Ed Griffin ever did. Here it is. You're going to take that. We got at our table of Freedom Law School, we see the 3 people wearing black today. I don't know why you guys are wearing black today. Nobody died. Okay? All right? You can pick it up for free. Another one is The Law by Fred Gabastier. Okay? And we used to sell this for $5, 5-10 years ago. Now we give it away free. This was written in 1800s, and you think it's talking about America today. It tells you what the true purpose and function and powers of government are and no more, and clearly shows why all the socialistic and fascistic policies of U.S. government is all false, and it gives you a blueprint for a just society. Okay, and I really want to. I talked to William Rodriguez. I told him that when his speech about 911 gives me a good one, we'll put that out. If you are not scheduled to come tomorrow, Sunday, you make a mistake. Sorry, this is my wife's section. Catch it? Oops. Thank you. She left it with me. Can you take it out to my wife, please? Well, my mistake. I apologize. Anyhow, we did a thing all about the cell phones here. I did myself. See, well, I'm not perfect. So, about 911, it's a very big thing. The stuff, for example, what Dave Von Kleist shared with you today was very moving to me. Very, very shocking. And, the income tax, as you heard like Steve Hempling discuss for you today, the legality whole thing is an absolute problem and a fraud. And that's one half. The other one half is the corruption of government. I mean, here's what we got going on in America. Joe Bannister, of course, will tell you about his story tonight. But after it came out, and Bob Schultz of We the People Foundation took Joe Bannister to D.C. to face the government, to discuss the issue of the legality of income tax. Brought Bannister from California to the Washington, D.C., across the nation, and to discuss this thing. Here's what the White House person, Jason Furman, the economic advisor at White House, here's what he said to Bob Schultz. He said, the legality of the income tax is not a high priority item at the White House. Let me read that to you one more time if you didn't get it. The legality of the income tax is not a high priority item at the White House. And we will not participate in any conference on the subject. Who would say such a thing? If the government are public servants, if everything they're are doing is supposed to be legal, right? And if everything they do is legal, why can't they come and discuss it? The only logical reason for them not wanting to discuss the legality of income tax is what, of course? They already know that what they are doing is illegal, right? And if you know what you're doing is legal, you surely don't want to, participate in any conference on the subject, right? What other conclusion is there? You be the fully informed jury on this issue. And that's why I contacted Bob Schultz, the We the People Foundation, and this USA Today ad that this comes in, okay? And the 3 other USA Today ads of We the People Foundation. I told him, I said, I want to order more of them because I've ordered, maybe over 1,000 before. Said, Bob Schultz said, we're not going to carry it anymore. I said, you're not going to carry this anymore? Well, I am. Or make 5,000 for me. Okay? So Freedom Law School paid for 5,000 of these brochures to be printed, and we're giving them to you all free of charge at our table at Freedom Law School. Get them out, get them to your friends, and tell them, can you believe the White House person had the gall to say that the government doesn't care about the legality of the income tax? And they don't want to talk about the subject either? Now, what kind of a government does that? I'll tell you what kind of government does that. Iranian government does that. Ayatollah Khomeini does that. Chinese government do that. Cuban government does that. Right? Not America. In America, we're supposed to be civil. In Iran, China, they put a gun to your head and say, bend over, jump, run. And you say, yes, sir. How high? How fast? How low? Because it's by the gun. In America, it's supposed to be the rule of law and civil discourse. We can talk about it, discuss it. Let's look at the law. Follow the law. The people follow the law, and the government's supposed to follow the law. Okay? Now, the shock of my life it hasn't come yet. The shock of my life came when I was meeting with Sean O'Connor and Dave Wellington in a private paralegal meeting that we had back in 1996. And Dave told me, Peymon, you haven't heard of a conspiracy to protect the income tax, the judicial conspiracy to protect the income tax? I said, no, what's that? He said, well, basically, if your theory about the income tax is something that would end, if you take that to the IRS or the courts, and would end up having to destroy the income tax, the legality of the income tax will be destroyed, no government judge will ever rule in your favor, no matter how good and solid your argument is based upon the U.S. Constitution's plain language. Supreme Court decisions, plain language, the old ones, 80, 90, 100 years ago, IRS code, or regulations. I said, well, I thought to myself, well, if the Congress is ignoring the issue, because they have been, if the IRS is ignoring the issue, and the courts are ignoring the issue, where are we going to go? Take up arms? Have another revolution, bloody revolution? We might have to, but even if you want to do that right now, we don't have enough people, enough militia members with guns who are willing to take up arms, take our country back. They don't even know about the problem. And if you do take up guns, they'll shoot you like a crazy, right? So that's not going to work either. So what are we going to do? I was back to square one because the Libertarian Party activism did not work. Even though I vote for Libertarian, run for office, for Congress, I've done that for Libertarian, and I urge you all to vote for a third party. Okay, mine is Libertarian Party, but don't vote Democrat, don't vote Republican, except in rare exceptions like maybe Ron Paul of Texas or Senator Feingold of Wisconsin. Besides those exceptions, generally don't vote for those guys. But I went away from the political activism into the courts, into the legal system about the law. I thought maybe get some remedy there. I found there's no remedy there either. So we're back to square one now. So what are we going to do? So I realized that we're going to have to take a multifaceted approach to freedom. You do a little bit here and there. You fight in the courts, okay, based upon procedures and technicalities and evidence and whatever the law allows you to win. You inform jurors about the rights to veto bad laws. You inform grand jurors about the right to indict criminal government officials, which they don't know, and they can't do that. Any grand jury has the right to investigate anybody who's done any kind of crime, including the judges and prosecutors. In fact, interestingly enough, one of the speeches that we were giving away, we just ran out of it, was that of Rodney Stitch, a former FAA investigator. His speech about government corruption and CIA drug importing in the country, we give that away too. Go to his website. Rodney Stitch's website is CIAdrugs.com. Write that down, CIAdrugs.com. It'll blow you away. How the Central Intelligence Agency is the biggest importer of cocaine and heroin in our country. And the government is covering it up, including the courts. The U.S. Department of Injustice is covering it up. The courts covered up. His speech is very, very awakening. It's about this corruption goes all the way to Supreme Court. Okay, we're gonna have Rodney come back again maybe next year, so you guys can see him live for yourself. The grand jury can indict these guys, So we're gonna have to try. When I was taken to a grand jury recently to testify about somebody, I was subpoenaed. I took his information to give to his grand jurors, and I was met with ignorance, of these grand jurors. I told them, you can investigate anything you want. Here it is. I'm not sure if they did. They probably didn't. Okay, but I told them we got to educate. Number one, we got to educate the public. There's just no way out of that way. But we don't have to stop and take it either without a fight, right? I didn't want to go down without a fight. Well, what Dave Wellington showed me is he got somebody's house. He assisted a guy, and he got his house back from the IRS after the IRS has seized and sold his house to somebody else. He got the house back after the buyer who bought the house from the IRS bought it and kicked the guy out, got the house back. Yeah. And I saw that. I said, whoa, this is good. He said, well, you know what, Peymon? Vern Holland and Larry Beecraft and others have done this more than me, actually. Really? Whoa, okay. So we can do some things there if you just play the game better and smarter, okay? And so that's why, I took on the approach at Freedom Law School, learned the law, IRS procedure, court procedure, because if you know the law and your rights, you can make a lot better decisions and be free than not. I have people come to me all the time. This happened to me. That happened to me. They did this to me. The police did that to me. The IRS did that to me. And government officials did that to me. And I'm thinking, when they talk to me, I said, well, that would not have happened to me. I wish they would have taken my courses before they got into this situation. Because this level 1 course, folks, is what we all should have in high school. As a senior in high school. Okay? And folks, how many Freedom Law School students we have in here? Could you stand up, all Freedom Law School students, okay? Just see them, okay? They're taking our courses material. If you have questions about how good the material is, you see it, they're in the front row seats too, you see? They want to hear everything. Thank you. Ask them how good the material is. And all of the material that we put out at Freedom Law School, we provide it to you with 100% 90-day unconditional money-back guarantee. Why? Because you don't know how good or useful it is until you try it, right? So we'll give you that chance. One of the things we're giving away, subsidizing for you, is the speech of Joel Bannister about income tax. That's on CD. This one's on DVD. And second part of that, a separate DVD, is the very first debate that We the People Foundation set up between the government and freedom movement's tax experts. Joe Bannister, Bill Benson, Bill Conklin, and Attorney Larry Beecraft, who was here earlier, by the way. Okay, and the government didn't show up. A few blocks from the White House and the IRS's headquarters, the government did not have even one clerk, one lawyer show up and say, oh, these guys are wrong. They're a bunch of crazy wackos. They're misreading, misinterpreting the law. Here is the correct law. Here, correct them. It's very simple. See, right there. We have the authority to take income tax out of the average American guy and require them to file a 1040 income tax confession form. This will blow you away and your friends away if they don't know about the issue. The double DVD, 2 DVDs, we're giving away for only $5. Why? Because we want you to see it and show it other people. Okay, we got a bunch of them there, so you can do that. Okay, so that's why also our Freedom Law School T-shirts. If you bring a Freedom Law School T-shirt, Dan, from me from back there. Okay, we want to take funny approaches to freedom, folks. Okay, you gotta get people's attention. Bring it over here, please, to freedom, because you gotta reach out to people's hearts and minds. If you don't reach people's hearts and minds and their conscience, you're not going to get anywhere. Okay? Sometimes you do it by funny ways, dramatic ways, logic, reason, the law, all kind of stuff. Try it all. One funny way I came up was, I saw a Libertarian Party ad one time. The guy had this gun, was looking at you, and on a T-shirt that says, "I'm from the government," and the bottom said, "I'm here to help you." I thought, yep, that sounds like the government, all right. So I just took that, because there was no copyright, and I added on the 6 different chambers of it: the IRS, FBI, CIA, VATF, FDA, DEA, and so it's a talking piece. If you're standing in line in the post office, the bank, store, somebody, the 1 out of 10 guy that's interested in freedom will tell you, "I like your T-shirts." I've had that happen to me. I'm telling you, "I like your T-shirt." Oh, so you can start talking to them, right? And sometime during the conversation, you can point the guy to the front of your T-shirt. Well, if you, by the way, if you had enough help, you could contact Freedom Law School. The website and phone numbers on the front. Okay? See, I learned that there's 2 ways. So we get a marketing job, outreach job to American people. We don't have enough money to reach this stuff out by advertising in newspapers. It had 3 ads in Washington Weekly, a magazine, Washington Times Weekly, and we spent over $5,000 on those ads, and not one person showed up. That was supposed to be a conservative, constitutional-oriented paper. The guy told me. Well, where are their readers, right? I would have got them more out of Orange County Register, I think, the local paper, and that one probably for that money. So I figure the best way we can do it, folks, is we're going to get the information out to you to pass it out, word of mouth. We can take America back like Paul Revere, word of mouth, with internet, with email, with DVDs, with CDs, okay, with literature like this that have powerful information out there, okay, word of mouth, T-shirts, okay, and build this thing kind of like network marketing, you could say. Word of mouth. Network marketing is word of mouth, isn't it? How many of you have been involved in some kind of network marketing program before? Oh, keep it up, keep it up. Look. Oh, wow. You look at all those salesmen out there. Successful or not, but that's okay. See, a lot more of you have been involved in sales than you want to admit, huh? Well, let me tell you something. People telling me, a guy told me today, "Oh, Peymon, you're such a good salesman." And I said, "What do you mean? You can sell ice to Eskimo?" That's not true. Bottom line is that, I was a terrible salesman. I just got better at it by practicing. Okay? I did sales 20-some years ago, and I was a miserable failure. My first sales job for 6 months, part-time mortgages, I sold 0. Okay? I sold 0. Okay? So I just know that if you believe in what you're doing, believe in what you got, and you just keep at it, you are going to end up coming across somebody who's interested in what you got. Okay? And I want to encourage you all not to be discouraged and get this stuff out there to as many people as possible. We want to get this information out to you. And if you call us for our free information package, we will send you as many as you want. There's a reason why the Freedom Catalog of Freedom Law School, this is the front of it, right? It says Freedom Catalog. On the back of it, I'm not promoting Peymon or myself or my picture, even though my wife loves my smile, okay? But I put the picture of Joe Bannister and that of Bob Schultz about how IRS agent exposes IRS fraud and the IRS fails to refute him. That's pretty big, folks. The fact that the IRS cannot refute one of their own former criminal investigation agent, criminal investigators who believed in his agency, loved what he did, was an excellent performer. He was. And we got court transcripts of that now. And the government tried to shut him up by trying to put him in jail with a, tax crime prosecution, which they did. And, of course, the government lost. Okay? That's something that wakes people up. Or what you're going to hear from William Rodriguez tomorrow, which I hope you don't miss. Those of you going to get out, don't come tomorrow. Rethink that. Come back tomorrow. I'm telling you, you're going to want to hear William Rodriguez. Okay? That stuff wakes people up. Okay? And you cannot wake up everybody. So let me give you some more tips now about freedom now. Told you guys about jurors, that's what you need to exercise your rights there. The other thing you need to do, folks, is to just simply learn to not to talk to government agents unless you really, really have to or need to. Okay? In our catalog, we have a page that says, to give you lots of tips in here. You got this in your information package, all of you got. If the government official ever contacts you, just simply tell them, please, we do not appreciate unexpected surprise visits. If you have a business with someone in this house, please write us, put your request in writing, we'll review it with our counsel, and respond to you appropriately. That response to them could be a written response, could be oral response, or you may ignore them. They don't know until they write to you. Make them work. Okay? Don't talk to them. That's the number one tip I can give you, folks, is that. Okay, now, because the fact that I have 2 sessions to talk to you, one now, one tomorrow, I'm going to have to tell you this. This is my disclaimer. I haven't told you the best stuff yet. Because if I tell you the best stuff now, I have nothing to talk about tomorrow. And so that's why I'm gonna be ending my speech now, and I invite you to come back tomorrow and be the whole day. And at the end of everything, when you got the big picture, you're getting the big picture of what's going on in America, right? You got exposure to stuff you never heard before. Some of you thought you knew it all. I heard about all this stuff. You got new stuff that you didn't know about, right? Yeah. Well, guess what? There's more stuff tomorrow that you're going to want to know. You say, whoa, I didn't know about that or about that. So by the time you get all of that, then at the end of the day, I'll be ready for some solution, because I know you're mad as hell to do something about it. Like Dave Von Clyde said, we're not going to take it anymore, right? But if all that is just emotion, excitement, just hot air, then it ends up being hot air. You got to have a definite plan of action that's thought through, that's practical, that's doable. So if you think this conference was organized, wait till you see our plan of action that is well planned, thought through, and organized to take America back. Freedom Law School started part-time in 1993 when there was no such thing. 96 I went full-time. Now we become the largest freedom organization in the country that actually provides assistance and help to people. Okay? And now we do conferences like this. We're going to grow from here and do something special to take our country back. So I invite you to come back to banquet dinner if you haven't done your reservations already. We got 10 tickets only left with the dinner with Joe Bannister if you want to be there. Okay? If you can't afford the $50 to be there, after the food is served about 8:30 or so, roughly, when the food is done, everybody can come in free of charge, just listening to the actual program. Okay, we want you to get the information. We got to pay the hotel for the food. So if you want to get 10 tickets, what's that? 9 o'clock, 8:39. Whenever the food's done, we'll let you in. Okay, folks. Thank you for coming. I'll see you tonight and tomorrow morning. If you go to church, you can go with Wiley Drake 7:30 right here in the morning. Be with Wiley Drake. Otherwise, 9 o'clock, show up the program to start again.
Back in, 1997. And, you probably heard my speech last night, so I was talking to Bill Conklin, and he suggested that I call something called a Peymon. No, and that was, my, since I'm one of those Sicily Americans that didn't do much traveling and, didn't know much about the culture outside of America, and but I came to learn more about it as time went on. But I did learn about this particular man who ended up knowing a lot more about the Constitution, about the rule of law, and about the federal income tax than I did. And here I got paid to carry a gun and a badge around, allegedly administering and enforcing that federal income tax. So it was kind of a belittling experience. But the next speaker, Peymon, was instrumental in educating me about these things that really by rights I should have learned many, many, many years before. And I think I might have told you a little anecdotal story about the tapes, you know, where he figured out a little crazy name to put on the title of the audio tape so that I could stick it in my government car's tape player and listen about researching laws or the Internal Revenue Code, things like that. So it's really, he was instrumental in educating somebody like me who really needed an education in some of these issues. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you a person who's been very supportive of my efforts and really the efforts to enlighten the American public about freedom and about what their rights are, and that would be Mr. Peymon Mottahedeh.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much, Joe. It's a pleasure and honor for me, folks, to be able to be with you in America rather than Iran, where I was born, and be able to speak my mind freely as I feel like expressing. Because as I shared with you yesterday, I could not do that in Iran without them concocting some kind of a charge and excuse just because I spoke my mind and my opinion about things and trying to put me in jail. So it's really great to be in this country, and as you all heard this weekend, we face some real serious problems in America. And a couple of people came to me and said, well, okay, I hear about the problems, but what about the solutions? You know, because we all been to these meetings of different groups. We call them, I call them meet, eat, and retreat. You heard about those kind of meetings? People go to a meeting, some speaker says this, the problems are like this, our government's corrupt, out of control, they're not following the law, they're violating our rights, they're stealing our money, they're doing injustice, but and we should do this, that, the other, that it should be this way, but they have no plan to get it that way. Except voting, which is really not working very well, is it, these days? We do vote, I vote all the time, but voting by itself is not working either, apparently. So there's got to be another solution. Well, if you get your Freedom Catalog out, the package that we have, I can go over that with you, or you can just look at the screen here, because in this Freedom Catalog, I got some things in there that will help you in the plan of action that we put out to bring a solution to it. First of all, we need to wake up our neighbors and friends and family members. As much as sometimes they don't want to hear us, you know, it might take us years, you know, to show them something to get their attention, bring them to the meeting like this for them to really know what's going on, or whatever else we may need to do to really wake them up. Sometimes it takes patience. But what I've decided to do at Freedom Law School is to invest our resources in outreach, number one, and I'd like to invite you to do the same. In the back of Freedom Law School catalog, you see, you don't find my picture or my story. It's not necessary, and I don't think it's appropriate, even though I think my story is interesting enough on its own as well. But I like to put a picture and story of someone who I think has a more interesting story to the average American and more credibility, and that of Joe Bannister. I told Joe when before he spoke at our first convention, just after he quit the IRS, that give me a picture of you that you got, you know, working for the IRS. He said, that's the only one I got that I can give you. That's good. I said, great, Joe. For many years, that's going to be your picture. Okay, because here you are holding a gun with the emblem of IRS on your T-shirt, hands up, like, hey, pay attention. You know, it's a good one, and you know, so I can put a message next to it. Hey, IRS agent exposes IRS fraud. and IRS fails to refute him. Now, if that does not get the attention of people, at least somewhat, then go to the next person. Okay? Maybe you all try something different. You know, because also on the CD of Joe Bannister, we put this out there on our CD that we're giving away. I don't know. I estimate about 18,000 recordings of Joe's speech, about 2,000 Freedom Commerce away for free. You can have as many as we got left on our table outside, pass to other people free, just to wake them up that, wait a minute, maybe the government is not following the law like they're supposed to. Maybe they need to look further, and maybe they need to do something about it. So this is the first, educational outreach tool to use, and that's why after a little bit of description of Joe's story and how the government refused and failed to meet with him and answer his questions about the fraud and lies of the income tax, invites the person to go to page 3 of a catalog, and what are they found in there? IRS special agent finds federal income tax a huge fraud. So the story continues. Now they can go read more about the rest of it, and when they do read that, the person's asked in the bottom half, look, do you think your public servants have a duty to respond and explain once and for all the legality of imposing an income tax on you and other Americans? See, rather than giving people the answers, I think it's a better way of communicating with people to ask them questions and make them think for themselves. Okay? Because that's what we need to do. We want people to think for themselves. Okay? You are all independent thinkers. That's how you ended up where you are right now. Okay? So, of course, the bottom of the page, it offers people to, if they don't have Joe's speech on audio, CD, or tape, to request it for free. Get the DVD of it for $5 cheap. These USA Today ads, free about the of Witty People Foundation. So the person should be by this time thinking a little bit more about, wow, maybe something is going on here. Then the next thing, interesting thing in there is a $300,000 reward. Okay? And this $300,000 reward is very, very easy one. I had somebody outside talk to me today, says, Peymon, I know 2 people who are IRS special agents. I said, great. Why don't you go tell them I got a reward for you, to $300,000 for you, but you got to promise me, if I show you the reward that I know you can help me collect, you will split it with me in half. Don't you go take it yourself. Don't be greedy. You got to agree with me that you'll split it with me half and half. If they don't agree with you, don't show it to them. But once the agent says, yeah, I'll say, okay, here we go, Mr. Special Agent in the IRS. Here was another IRS Special Agent in the IRS who couldn't answer these questions. And these are the 3 questions. Number 1, show what statute written by the Congress of the United States, okay, it requires Americans to file an income tax confession return and pay an income tax. Because I haven't been able to find it, and the special agent in the IRS named Joe Bannister couldn't find it, but maybe you can, because that's worth $100,000. Number 2, how can Americans file an income tax confession form or return without giving up their Fifth Amendment guaranteed right not to give any information to the government that may be used to prosecute them and put them in jail? Because every time you fill out and sign out 1040, you read the bottom of it. It says, I declare on the penalty of perjury that everything in this form is true, correct, and complete. If there's any mistake, you can go to jail for that. And I don't want them to use that information against me in case I make a small mistake. How could I not give them the Fifth Amendment right? Because I don't want to fill out the form if I don't have to. Well, Joe Bannister couldn't answer that. Maybe you can, Mr. Irish Special Agent, or my fellow neighbor, okay, my co-worker, friend, whoever. Third, well, here it is. It's another simple one. Just prove that the 16th Amendment of the United States Constitution which according to the IRS and the modern American courts permitted the income tax to exist, was lawfully added to the United States Constitution. That's it. Very three little short things. And folks, the reason they cannot show that, because Bill Benson traveled all the 50 states and demonstrated by a certified copy of all states that the 16th Amendment, the Income Tax Amendment, was not lawfully ratified. And the courts have refused to look at this issue and rule on it, or they just ignore it. They say like, well, it's been going on for 7 years now. We cannot, it's too old to look at it. Can't look at it now. Or we cannot look at this issue without showing disrespect for sister branch of government. I don't know where in the U.S. Constitution says that these judges, when they took an oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution, says that, well, you can let that oath go and don't uphold the Constitution, and the way the Constitution needs to be properly amended if you find that it would show disrespect to your fellow branch of government. Have you read that anywhere? But the courts have said, folks, in the first USA Today ad of that We the People Foundation did, they quoted from a case called Stahl, U.S. versus Stahl. It's a 1986 case. The site is 796 Fed Second 1438. And here's what it says. Stahl's claim, the defendant, that ratification of the 16th Amendment was fraudulently certified constitutes a political question because we could not undertake independent resolution of this issue without, quote, check this out, expressing lack of respect due coordinate branches of government. See, that's the problem with the courts. That's why, Steve Hempling was right when he said the courts will not give us our freedom. So here, ask for this $300,000 reward, and this is what Freedom Law School declares, and say, look, let's go for the money. Please. And you see, don't you think that doesn't work? Because Sherry Jackson, a former IRS agent, when she came across a reward like this one, that's what turned her around and got into the movement. Yep. Sherry Jackson heard about another reward like this about the income tax. So it can and does work. That's why it's in our catalog, to help you wake people up. Of course, in the bottom of it, it invites people for more information to check out the website of Joel Bannister, freedomabovefortune.com, and that of We the People Foundation, GiveMeLiberty.org, who took Joel Bannister to Washington, D.C. many times to debate the government. That government never shows up. There it is. Research it for yourself. Don't take our word for anything, right? Now, the other thing is, people think that, I was talking to another gentleman today, in fact. I got to file my tax returns because I'm going to get in trouble if I don't file. See? And this guy's a wonderful patriot who's been to these meetings and seminars many times. I recognize his face. And I told him, I will address that issue in my presentation. Well, because people are under the false impression that after a file, they're doing much safer. Let me explain that issue to you. How many of you heard about the book called The Art of War by Sun Tzu? Oh, a few of you have. Sun Tzu was a military guy in China a long time ago who wrote a book called The Art of War, and his book was the book on how to win any kind of war in military battles. It's such a classic that today now corporate leaders and politicians and business people use it on how to win any kind of a war in politics and business. It's about strategy, not about spears or machine guns. It's about strategy, how to conquer your enemy and rise to the top. And here's what it says Sun Tzu. He says, you know what's the best way to win any kind of a war? The best way to win any kind of a war is to convince your enemy that the safest, smartest thing for him to do is to voluntarily surrender to you without a fight. That way you don't risk one soldier's life or even one gun or bullet. Mess with his mind, brainwash him, fool him to subdue to you without a fight. That is such a worthy prize that you should do everything you can to convince him to voluntarily surrender to you. If you can do that. If you can be doing that, right? Well, remember in America, the major media is owned and controlled by the same people who own the politicians and the government, right? So that's why in the newspapers you see all the time they say, no matter what, if April 15th, even if you don't have the money, make sure you file that 1040 confession form. Confess, give up the information, give up the facts the government wants from you to use against you to hang you. And that's why you're so scared. Because when they want to audit you, they say, well, we agree you confess to this much receipt of income, but the deduction expense, prove it. Cancel checks, receipts, you got to prove it. And I had another student of mine, for years that he filed, called me up in tax court. And he said, can you help me? I just talked to him for a little bit, went over the paperwork. I said, the best I can tell you is you filed, you don't have the receipts and cancel checks for this thing. You know, tax court, just don't show up. You're going to lose anyhow without receipts and cancel checks. You're in a losing position. You put yourself in a losing position up front, and I cannot get you out of it. They convinced you that year to do the worst thing for you. Worse than that, the facts are, according to the IRS, if you file an income tax return or confession form, your chances of going to jail are 9 times more than if you do nothing. You think that's incredible? Unbelievable? Or I made it up? Well, that's not the case. All of this comes from the IRS's own website, their information. What you see here is 2 different charts. You can go look it up on IRS's own website. The exact location is listed in there in small print. You can go check it out. But basically, the top part of this two chart is 2 different charts I put together. One was this part of the IRS's website. The other one was far away. I put the piece of puzzle together so you can see the whole puzzle. And that is, IRS, according to them, and the first line shows they investigate and second and prosecute roughly about 2,000 people a year. A little bit small print there, but you can see it in the catalog, more big print for yourself. They prosecute roughly about 2,000 people a year, okay, and convict a little bit less than that. Actually, they prosecute about 2,500, I should say, or 23, and they prosecute about 2,000, 2,200. In the bottom half is the criminal investigation of the IRS's non-filer initiative. Only the non-filers are listed in the bottom part, with everybody's listed in the top portion, filer and non-filer. And the bottom line, the highlighted part, is the convictions of non-filers. It's around 200, 220. Roughly about 1/10 of the total. So if you got roughly about 2,000 people that the IRS puts in jail, and only about 200 of them are non-filers, that means the remaining 1,800 or so are all filed. That's right. They voluntarily filed an income tax confession form that's now being used against them. Dr. Robert Clarkson is going to add something here, I guess.
All right, Peymon told you the good news. I want to tell you the great news. It's a lot better than what he says. It's a whole bunch better. The figures came from the track program from Syracuse University. I got that 220 figure yet? You talked about it? Right. Well, track's got it a little bit better. They broke it down. 100 of them were basically drug dealers who got caught selling drugs. Well, they're required to pay income tax on illegal activity. So that brings it down. That brings that figure down to about 120 or 100. Right. Okay. There's a bunch of them. I'd say about 20, 30 of them are lawyers. They have a privileged franchise from the state. They're required to file. So you start bringing this down. Also, about 50 of them are people that file late. They file a tax return. There's a law against filing late. If you bring these figures on down, the actual failure to file cases with nothing else, it's been for the last 20 years under 6 and sometimes like 4 a year. And Peymon also has, if you brought it up yet, 600, he'll tell you about the 64 million or 63 million in a little bit, but you divide 4 into 64 million, and that's what your odds are.
Right. Well, we're going to get to that other good stuff. Yes, thank you, Dr. College, for that addition. Yeah, I'm sure when the drug dealers don't file, the only way they can get the drug dealer without evidence of the drug is the fact that he made all these millions and then file. That is true. That is the prime way to get him. In fact, Joe Barrister can attest to that. That's one thing they did on a regular basis. So the amazing fact is, folks, that doing nothing on April 15th is less risky than signing a 1040 income tax confession form. That's just a fact, okay? Because, and then you have no defenses as a filer, because you just give them a piece of paper that you sign under oath on the penalty of perjury. Read it before you sign a 1040 form. Whereas as a non-filer, you sign nothing. Remember that Paul Grant told you a story about a juror, right? That the juror, during a questioning of a trial, said nothing. And then when a prosecutor for saying nothing, right, and the judge said, no, I don't think you can prosecute the juror for just simply saying nothing, right? Let it go. Not give him information is always better than give him information that could use against you. Now here's a letter that Clarkson was talking about from the IRS. In 1998, the IRS wrote this letter to somebody that basically, if you read, I'll read it for you, the second paragraph, says that based upon IRS's own estimates, they don't know, their estimates, they believe there were in 1996 63 million Americans who to the IRS appear to have been required to file a tax return but did not. 63 million people, folks. There's a lot of non-filers out there, huge number, more than you thought. The number of filers, I think IRS is about 120, 30 million now. Non-filers is probably over 70 million by now, right? That's about 10 years later, who knows? So, there's not just a few non-filers as people think, there's a lot of them, okay? So, and the bottom line is that, IRS is mostly bluff. See? They are really a bluff. They just don't want you to know about it. This is straight from the IRS as the Wizard of Oz. Here's IRS Commissioner Everson on his web page on the IRS's website. Here, right there. He says that the IRS has approximately 100,000 employees and a budget of $10 billion in 2002, and that they collected $2 trillion in revenues. Well, most people just bypass that. Well, I did the math on that. If you do the math on that, here's what it means, okay? That means that for every $1,000 that the IRS collects, they only spend about $5. 50 cents they spend for every $100 they collect. That's a pretty good rate of return, isn't it? You imagine you ought to operate a business with that kind of a budget, okay? There's no way they can go after everybody all the time, and they admit it. When they go to court, the publication, we just can't get everybody. They try to say, that's why it's based upon voluntary compliance, they claim. Okay? Because people think, no. They have a huge job of corralling all these non-filers. They have to audit all these other non-filers, and they cannot get all of them, filer or non-filer. They only get a small percentage of both filer and non-filer. Okay? So if you've been a filer and haven't come after you, you're lucky. Okay? Because all it takes is audit you. It happened to me one year. I can tell you about that. I filed only, I think, like 2 years in my life, and sure enough, one of those years I got audited. I never filed anything in high school, college, after that, ever. Until I married my ex-wife, and she said, put your signature on my return, you get more money back. I said, okay, fine with me. I don't understand this stuff. Okay, sounds good to me. And sure enough, when we got separated in divorce, but she says, we got audited. What? What is this? Why did I sign this paper? To get in trouble? Really? So, so as I mentioned to you earlier, folks, for every 2 filers, there's one non-filer, and they just cannot go after everybody, and the IRS knows it. And another page here now you see is that not only 9% of people that the IRS convicts are filers, people who voluntarily file an income tax return confession form, okay? and all these people voluntarily put the rope around their neck, okay, here's the difference though. It gets better. As a filer, you go to jail a maximum of 5 years. It's a felony to file and make a mistake if they convince the jury what you did was purposeful. I don't have the receipts because there was no receipts. That's what they claim, right? He said, I don't have the deduction receipt or cancel check because there was none, they claim. You got to prove the jury you were innocent. How can they do that? The jury sees you as a tax cheat. You have no defense. 5-year felony, tax evasion charge. That's for each year that you file. So if they do come after you for 4 years, that's 4 times 5. That's 20 years you're looking at for signing pieces of papers religiously. Now, if you just simply don't file, most non-filers, they only come after for simply failure to file return charges. And under law, that's a 1-year misdemeanor only. That's it. So if you, for 4 years of non-filing, they come after you, you look at only 4 years. Whereas as a filer, they're going after you for 20 years maximum. Which one would you rather face? 20 years maximum for filing or just 4 years for non-filing? You choose. You got a choice. I was in an airplane one time traveling, and this airline stewardess looked at me and said, I just don't like either one. I don't want to go to jail at all. And I just thought to myself, I thought, you know what? You're either pregnant or you're not pregnant. There is no halfway, is there? And, you know, a woman's body, you can die during childbirth. That happens statistically. That's a risk you take if you do have a child. If you don't have a child, your body goes through other complications possibly because your body was meant to have a child, right? That's a risk too. Well, I don't like either one. Well, okay, I guess the other choice is die, so you don't have to go through either one of those. Or don't be born. You know, there is no choice, folks. I hate to tell you, that tells you how corrupt and criminal the U.S. government has become. They want to place the citizens in a quandary and under control no matter what. If you do something they want you to do, they come after you big time. If you just simply do nothing, they still come after you. Right? Well, based upon the facts, I think not filing seems a lot safer, a lot less risky. Okay? So, for example, Larkin Rose, who got charged with 5 years of non-filing, you heard about him, many of you? You know, he got only 15 months, 1 year and 3 months. For 5 years of not filing, 5 years. Had he filed, he would have looked at maximum of 25 years. And proportionally, he would have gotten about, I think, 6.5 year jail sentence instead of 1 year and 3 months. If you got the same proportional sentence, which one would you rather look at? You know, and as a non-filer, you got lots of good defenses, right? You can win. Vernie Kuglin won her case, didn't she? Lloyd Longhurst won his case, didn't he? Okay? You know, and I suggest that you confront the congressmen, senators about all this stuff. And ask the government these questions. When they don't answer you, they don't show you the law, then you got a good defense to take to the jury, don't you? Like Vernie Kuglin did. You can do something about it as a non-filer to beat those charges. As a filer, good luck. I can tell you horror stories about that, and if you like later on. So here's a U.S. Senator Henry Belmont in 1969. Here's what he said. He said, in a recent conversation with an official of the IRS, I was amazed when he told me, quote, if the taxpayers of this country ever discover that the IRS operates on 90% bluff, the entire system will collapse. Bluff, folks. See? That's what the IRS says. They know it. You don't know it. Okay? We got more educational stuff in the catalog about, you know, how law schools don't teach us our rights, you know, how you should be quiet, don't give information to these guys, don't talk to them. Okay? You all met Paul Balmer. He's one of the heroes that we got, live, living, breathing people by knowing the law, knowing your rights. You can win. He won $250,000, right? Plus, the court forced California government franchise tax board to pay his attorney's fees and court expenses as well. So if you know how to play the game, you can win. You don't have to be a victim. Sometimes people say, oh, Peymon, I just want to just avoid everything and go in my little corner and hide. But you know what, folks? That's what the people in the Trade Center, the towers that died, that's what they had done. Because you know what? As Ted Gunderson, I'm not sure if he said it this time or not, but the proof came out that FBI had this retired Egyptian colonel plant the bombs in there, real bombs. The Egyptian guy thought it was a fake bombs. There's a sting operation. The FBI gave him real bombs. And good thing the guy taped him, because when he came out, this Egyptian colonel said, FBI gave me real bombs. He had to tape it to prove. Tape of his discussion with the FBI leaders. They were trying to do this New World Order back in 1993. They were trying to bring out the trade towers back in 1993. When it didn't work. It failed. They made some mistakes. The truck with the bomb was not close enough to the beams that held up the Trade Center. So, but if they come to these meetings and heard people like Ted Gunderson, they would have known to stay away from a place like that, right? So going and hiding in the corner will not work, folks. Then you're going to be the guy that the policeman or IRS picks on you, and you're a victim. Then you come to us, oh, please help me. I just didn't know how corrupt our country is. I didn't learn about the law. I didn't learn about my rights. Come help me. By the way, they took everything I have. I have no money. Please help me for free, because you're a great patriot. You know? Whereas we told them, look, get involved, get educated up front, do something, and win, like Paul Balmer did. Okay? Here's a copy of the check. You all seen this before, right? We showed it to you yesterday. He actually did win. This is not some claim people make. And as you know, here's another person that won. Freedom Law School student Joe Bannister. He took our level 1 course, listened to it in IRS, and he did further research and reading on his own. And because he was educated, he was prepared, he got good help, he won. This is the American Free Press issue, July 11th, 1998, the article I wrote. 2005. They put him on the front page. Famed IRS whistleblower gets tax fraud acquittal. He can win, you can win. You prepare like Joe does, work with people that are better than you, smarter than you in the law, you can win too. That's the difference. Okay? And this is Freedom Law School's victory. We had our own as well. Okay? This is a letter they sent me in April 2003. You know, IRS has closed down almost all the freedom law organizations in the country. Few of them with criminal tax prosecutions, but a vast majority of them that close them as abusive tax shelter promoter. You know that? Thurston Bell, they closed. I mean, gosh, I cannot think of all these names. I forgot now. They closed all of them. Well, they finally said, you know what, let's go get that Peymon guy. You know, let's write to him. So they wrote to me, and they said, we're writing to you. Here we go. With respect to your tax shelter promotions, including but not limited to Freedom Law School, okay, and related promotions, okay? And so I wrote some correspondence, and they called me a couple times. The IRS lawyer calls me, the IRS agent calls me separate times. Oh, Peymon, we just want to talk to you. Oh, we're not saying you're a tax shelter promoter. On the phone, they told me that. Oh, we just want to talk to you. We just looked on the internet, your website. You know, okay, put it in writing, sir. Put it in writing, Mr. Irish lawyer. Right? After I toyed with him for a while, you know, I got his confession that they had nothing on me anyhow. I said, fine, I've written you 2 letters. You've ignored my letters. You ignore my questions. You have an obligation to answer. And I quoted their own mission statement and all that they must communicate with you, help you understand what's going on. It's all in the letters I wrote to you, okay? And so they finally wrote, sent it to the IRS agent, and they finally wrote this letter to me. This is not a computer-generated letter, folks. The first letter was signed by Frank Nixon. That's the head of the IRS Laguna Niguel office, the big honcho. He hand signed my letter, not just some dumb computer like Dennis Parizek some of you got letters from, right? Anybody got letters from Dennis Parizek around here? Yeah, okay. And this next one, the agent, wrote to me, the agent, is handwritten, typed, okay? And so what does she say in the relevant part, second page? She says, I also understand that you are concerned that we have already made a determination that you are a promoter of illegal tax shelters. This is not true. We have simply found sufficient information on the internet to indicate that you may be promoting illegal tax shelters. And she underlined the word maybe. That was not me. The entire letter, she underlined one thing only. That's it. Why would she do that? Then she says, and that determination is sufficient to warrant further investigation. Okay? Basically, what they want to say, look, we got nothing against you, buddy, but we know you're guilty. We know you're a terrorist. We know you're an enemy of the state. And we want to get you. And we can get it from you, from everything you put out there. So we want you to let us do a real thorough examination and check on you. Take your clothes off. Let us look at every pocket you got. And then at the end we'll tell you, nah, maybe you are one, maybe you're not. That's not America, folks. That's Iran. That's China. In America, they cannot force you to do so, so I did it. After that, I said, okay, bye-bye. In fact, I plan to sue them, by the way. I've just been too busy, to be honest with you. Because I know they send spies. They call them informants to our classes, Freedom Conference, and just have to spy on me and Joe Bannister and Steve Hempfling and, some of us are more upfront active, and they just come and saying, well, so what'd you get on him? Oh, man, this guy just exercises his First Amendment rights to criticize the government and the way the politics run this country, how corrupt the system is. We cannot take that to court. We can't get him again. Okay? So here we go, folks. That's how Freedom Law School became the largest organization in the freedom movement, because we learn about the law and our rights and assert it properly. We're not naive. We know how corrupt they are. And I've had the fortune and assistance of people like Sean O'Connor and Dave Willington and others and Steve Hempfling who, made sure as we grown up, we didn't make those dumb mistakes. Because I tell you, most everybody I've seen they got in the freedom movement, they got them for the mistakes when they were small, when they were new, when they didn't know how bad things were. And then, by the time they found out, I made a mistake 4 years ago, too late. Now they want to prosecute you for what happened 4 years ago. We didn't do that. And you can be free too, folks. You can breathe free. You don't have to be afraid of those guys. They are your public servants, and you are their masters. Have the attitude of the sovereign, number one. Your attitude is number one. If you don't think you're sovereign, if you don't think you're the government's boss, if you don't think that they really are your servants, then just bend over. Whenever the government official comes to you say, yes, sir, yes, massa, whatever you say, massa, sure, what do you want me to sign? Yes. How much do you want me to give you? Yes. Where do you want me to go? Yes. Okay? Now, I also realize that you got to pick your battles too in life. You don't want to confront them every time. I don't either. Okay? But this is one of those things I like to put my stake on the ground. Okay? And say, no more. You heard that, all these whistleblowers we had here. Not just Joe Bannister about the fraud of income tax. But Ted Gunderson talking about the former head of FBI, Memphis, Dallas, Los Angeles offices, exposing this deep corruption in our government that the highest levels at the political level are initiating, controlling, directing, and covering up. You heard from David Von Kleist and William Rodriguez, national hero he is, about what happened at 911. How the 911 Commission covered up Rodriguez's testimony about explosions in the Trade Center Tower. They didn't bring it up. The media covered it up. Must have been an inside job, because if the government was seeking the truth, why wouldn't they get his testimony on the record? Why wouldn't they publicize Rodriguez's testimony about bombs, explosions in the building? Why? There's only one inescapable conclusion, and you know what that is. This was inside job by people behind the scenes who who run the government and or the people in government or the cooperation or complicity. We don't exactly know, but we know it was at the highest level of the United States government. You heard that from Dave, irrefutable evidence. In fact, if you haven't listened to those speeches of Monclais and Rodriguez, I tell you, you should. You should make it part of this presentation of mine. I just don't have the time to do it. Here it is. IRS, that's part of my presentation. You got it on tape? The jury needs to see that. You be the jury. You decide. Do you want to support that kind of a criminal activity? Do you want to support us on the Beyond Treason DVD you saw Monclais show how in Iraq we're using depleted uranium and having all our veterans who are putting their lives on the line for us, our boys and girls are coming home sick, and we have and kids are being born deformed, maligned. And these criminals at the highest level, like George Bush and Bill Clinton, these guys have been doing this stuff knowingly, intentionally. They represent interests of big banks, oil, defense contractors, big money, corporations, right? Do you want to support them? You can. But I believe it's time you say enough. Enough is enough. When We the People Foundation put this ad in USA Today and talked about we the people have a right, a First Amendment right, of if the government doesn't answer our redresses, we have a right to pay no taxes, no answers, no taxes. They have a right. That's what the Founding Fathers did. That's what they tried to do first, way back over 200 years ago, before they picked arms. They tried that first. And you see that, you read that in there, in the We the People Foundation's ad in American Free Press. You have that same right, because you are the master of government. Don't forget that. They serve you. They don't serve you right, you don't have to pay them. People say, well, but if don't people, everything will fall apart. If anybody has a beef with the government, then the government will fall apart. It's not a beef. There's not a beef. We're talking about deep, highest level criminality, murder of American citizens that the government has perpetrated and or covered up. You'd be technically, legally accessory of the crime if you know this information and don't do nothing about it. The problem is the thieves are running the show now. So if you want to start your way to freedom and standing up against these crooks, educate yourself. Our level 1 course is called A Practical Road to Freedom from Oppressive Taxation and Control. This is what Joe Barrister, when he was working with the IRS, listened to driving around. 9 weeks of classes on audio tape, okay, and comes with a money-back guarantee. 3 months money-back guarantee. How many people have listened to level 1 course in this audience? Can I see show of hand? Okay, well, you want to see how good it is? There's some live members you can ask them about, okay? It's the best information out there. Don't believe me? Check it out for yourself. Because I take the time to look through everything, put the best thing at combination of material together for you. If you want, and you want to go one step ahead of that, then you get the beginner's freedom package. Really, what you really should start is ideally this, even better. Because now besides the level 1 course I just showed you, okay, in addition, you're going to get the best information from other organizations like Free Enterprise Society, Robert Clarkson, We the People Foundation, Joe Bannister, others. It's all in there. And you send a copy of these most critical information to your congressmen and senators. Joe Bannister's report on income tax, his speech on DVD, the first C-SPAN hearing that Bannister did with the people, Bob Schultz's speech of with the people about all this, and the USA Today ads, all that. You send that to your congressmen and senators and you confront them. If you want to add Beyond No Treason that David Monclais did, great, add that to it too. Something about 911, the DVDs that William Rodriguez was passing out, send that into, that's great too. Okay? And when these guys don't do nothing, but they don't answer you, that tells you they're criminals, doesn't it? Otherwise they would answer you. They would say, oh, I'm going to get on it right away, right? So you be the judge. If you congressmen and senators act on this information and investigate, great, go file a pay income tax. If they show you a law that requires you to file a pay income tax, go ahead and file a pay income tax. I've never come across anybody yet who has done this and the congressmen, senators, the lawmakers, the lawmaker, the highest authority income tax has ever shown them the law that requires them to file income tax. Okay? So this program is for $900, okay? And if you don't have the money for these folks, the amount, you can put up a third down and make payments on it, folks. Money is not an issue. We need the money to make these things happen, but we're not a money-making operation. We try to do the right thing. Okay, so if you don't have all the money up front, no problem. We'll let you make payments. We have 11 other different courses on different areas: traffic tickets, how to sue and jail government agencies, state income tax agencies, social security number removal from computer files. A lot of different courses, if you want, available also. Okay, but the ultimate suggestion I got is to consider one of the 2 freedom packages or tax defense funds we have available to protect you from these guys. Because this way, you're going to get not only education and preparation, but also get assistance and representation also, because that's what people want. People want a peace of mind that someone's going to be there to back you up. And we give you that peace of mind by giving the proper balance of education, support, and representation to live free of the IRS abuse and tyranny. Now, the 2 packages are Simple Freedom Package and the Royal Freedom Package, okay? And they have a lot of the same features. The main difference between the 2 is that with the Simple Freedom Package, we don't represent you if the IRS is after you only for money. If they want to put you in jail, we'll do everything for you. We pay the paralegals and attorneys all the way through. But with the Royal Freedom Package, when they come after you for money also, we will do it for you. The Simple Freedom Package, you do it yourself, or you have to pay extra for the work that others need to do for you to represent, to handle it for you. Okay? With the Royal Freedom Package, it's all included. Okay? And here's the information about them is on our website, in our catalog in more detail. The first year for the Simple Freedom Package is $4,000. Second year and thereafter is $700. Okay? And a Royal Freedom Package, which most people choose to get the Royal Freedom Package, is $6,000 to start and $2,000 each year thereafter, or $2,500 if you're from California. Now, how much these? Oh, I don't have $6,000. Well, to some of you, I know that's not a problem. Okay, some people call me and say, "Peymon, it's such a good deal. Fax me the application." Okay. Some of you say, "Well, that's you don't have trouble with the first year." No problem. We'll let you make payments on the first year part. But after that, what's $700 a year, or $2,000, $2,500 a year? We would consider the fact that no matter what comes up, we will pay the paralegals and attorneys, whatever it takes. Attorneys typically charge $100 an hour. An hour. You do the math. So if you're paying $2,000, $2,500 a year to have unlimited protection, is that worth it? We cover filers and non-filers, by the way. As a filer, however, you must give us certified notarized copies of all the deductions and all the expenses you claim, with contact information of third parties to verify them, and your tax returns. You say, "What? You want all that?" Well, that's what you agreed to provide the IRS in case they audit you. That's what you did. I just want you to go notarize them. So you can keep the originals. I have the copy to go show the IRS. That's all. But as a non-filer, the burden of proof is on them. That's right. They cannot simply audit you and say, pick out your return, prove this expense, prove its deduction. Now, they must come forward and show proof that you had $50,000 of taxable income or $50 million of taxable income. It's the same. You cannot prove a negative, can you? You could not prove you did not receive $50 million last year or $50,000, can you? The burden of proof is on them. And you can beat them by procedures and technicalities, okay? It can be done, okay? We do it all the time. And Freedom Law Schools, as I showed you, assembled a dream team of the very best people in the freedom movement to back you up. Leo Masters, one of my dream team members, he passed away last year. He was a great guy. Been at this for a very long time. He passed away, so we miss him. Some of you know him, but Dr. Clarkson is one of them, works with us. Paul Ballmer, Dave Wellington, others, officially or unofficially work with us. Attorneys, and it's growing. We're meeting more good paralegals and attorneys who want to work with us, who are interested in working with us, and we'll find an attorney if necessary. for you, to represent you if that's what it takes. Okay? Folks, all it is just I'm the conduit for all of you come together and back each other up. That's all it is. That's all it is. If all you got together, like the founding fathers, like Benjamin Franklin, okay, put your hands together, now you got more power than just you by yourself. Okay? That's all it is. So we try to do everything we can to do the best job possible, charge you as little as we need to do the job right for you. Because I've seen other organizations, one of the biggest problems when I studied freedom movement history was they didn't charge enough to survive. Believe it or not. Yeah. This is one of the common mistakes I realized is that after years and years of trying to put my course and material as cheaply as I could to people. Yeah, I was in our 1990s. I did that for 8-9 years. As cheaply as I could put everything I could out. I could not expand. I could not put a conference like this together. I could not get the information out. I could not hire paralegals or attorneys to help people. Hey, folks, freedom is not free. Okay? Somebody got to pay for it somehow. If you want that freedom, you got to pay for it. Do it yourself or pay someone else to do it. That's all there is. And I tell you what, at this Freedom Conference, I want to make a special invitation to you to join hand with other freedom lovers we got here. Okay? That is, we offer you $500 off either the simple freedom package or rural freedom package for the first year. If you got the money today, great. If you don't, just fill out the application, tell us when you're going to send it in, or make the payment plan, and we'll still reserve that $500 discount for you as long as you complete your payments within 4 months. Okay? So we're willing to work with you on that. Lack of money right now is not the problem. When people ask me, well, what if I do, how do I send the money to you? Well, U.S. Supreme Court says you must use cash to protect your financial privacy. You cannot use a bank account. Supreme Court said in the case called Miller, cited there, okay, if you want to protect your financial privacy. So do as they say and use cash. And the best way to send cash to mail is the same way gold dealers send you gold in the mail. You don't get gold by UPS or FedEx. U.S. mail, registered mail. Bank sends foreign currency the same way. Everybody in the post office signs for it, and it's under lock and key. Get a return receipt, the green slip also. Put it in a priority mail envelope, cardboard protected. You have no problem with cash coming to us that way. Just make sure you put your phone number so we'll call you when we get it, okay? We're not doing cash to have people send us something and say, we didn't get it. That's not what we're trying to do. We try to protect everybody's financial privacy because the court says we have that right, but we got to do it this way, so we do it that way. Because nobody by law can open first-class mail letter without a court order. Nobody. It's a crime. It's a federal crime to open first-class mail letter. Okay? Now, some of you say, well, I don't have the money. I don't have the money. What can I do? I want to be free. I don't want to give my money to thieves and criminals. Well, we have an American Freedom Prize opportunity for you called the Freedom Opportunity. Folks, in the 80s, when I was so poor, I remember in 1984, when I was getting out of university, in the last year, I had to get a job working in a restaurant as a busboy. Everybody, all the other busboys were illegal aliens from Mexico or South America. I was probably the only legal busboy, legal immigrant. And you know what? I was under the busboys, under illegal aliens. You think I cared? No. It was a job. Nothing wrong with working hard. America's about people come from the bottom going up. Opportunities are there. And I tried different kind of opportunities, had my own business years ago. Okay? If you want to do your own thing, you don't have the money, you're just making only a few bucks an hour, you can have an opportunity and be successful too. The Freedom Opportunity Plan is all you do is refer people to us. Be a modern day Paul Revere. Just refer people to Freedom Law School and you can earn your own simple and rural freedom package program. And make money on top of that too. Refer 3 people, get your simple freedom package. Or refer 4 people, get your own rural freedom package. If you don't have the money, that's another alternative. That's all you got to do. Talk to other people, give them our freedom catalog, give them Joe Bannister's speech, give them a speech of myself about Freedom Law School, okay? And enough people with common sense will say, I'm interested. Where do I go? Tell me. And after that, you can get paid up to $3,000 per referral, cash. The first 2 people you get paid 10%. Next 2 people, 25% referral fee. Then after that, it's 50%. So that's for every Royal Freedom package, that's $3,000 per referral. And you get to keep your cash first. Keep it. Send us the balance of it with the application. We don't need your slave surveillance number, social security number. We don't need to send a 1099 to the IRS about you. Okay, you're the one that got the money. Okay? Completely private. Your neighbor doesn't have to know how much you make if you don't want to tell him, or the government, or the guy across the street, right? You do refer one person a month. That's $3,000 a month. That's not bad part-time income, is it? You take it more seriously and go talk to a lot of people, especially small business owners, okay? To maybe get one referral a week, that'll be $13,000 a month. Not bad full-time income, huh? All you gotta do is be a Paul Revere and talk to people. Talk to people. You gotta know, not interested, closed mind, I'm afraid, great, next. I'm one closer to the one I'm interested. I'll read. I'll check it out. I'll talk to you, right? 1 out of 10, I don't know what number is that, but just go out there and do that. Be a Paul Revere. And the other ones that said no to you, when someone else goes to them, second, third, fourth time, then they say, yeah. You know, someone else talked to me about that a month ago or 3 months ago. I'm interested now. You know, let me check it out more. Okay? So, folks, it's your opportunity. The opportunity is there, but you want to run with it. People complain about no money, lack of success. Well, if you got a problem and you don't take advantage of it, when an opportunity comes, look in the mirror for the problem. Because opportunity is there. It was there for this immigrant from Iran who was poor, who worked minimum wage jobs as a busboy in a restaurant, okay, or janitor at the bowling alley. I've done those things. Okay, if I can do it, why can't you do it? And the system's already laid out for you to promote freedom and make money at the same time. We have a conference call every week, Wednesday night. You can have people call in, listen to it. We'll talk to people. Just be a Paul Revere. Have people get the information, call in, and listen to us. Let us do it for you, explanation for you. Okay? And the application is you have it in our catalog. Okay? Just fill it out and give it to us. And folks, remember, it's about freedom, number one. Not about the money. See, U.S. Attorney Twist in Joe Barron's trial at the closing statements told the jury in his closing argument that to Bannister, it was all, and he says it like this, it's about the money. It was all about the money. That's the way he said it. He tried to lie to the jury. Well, I submit to you with everything you've seen, you know that it's for the politicians in Congress and the United States Senate and the president and the judges and U.S. attorneys like Twist who want to go a rise or higher in their careers, make the good, comfortable jobs. Because a typical U.S. attorney makes about $100,000 a year. When he adds his benefits and retirement, yeah. I know majority of people in this room don't make close to $100,000 a year. Okay? They make more than you. For them, it's about the money and fast-rising career and covered up for themselves. For you, it's about freedom. But you know what? You want to free the world? Great. Reach out to the world, like we're suggesting, but take care of number one first, too. That's you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and every one of you. Doesn't have to be one or the other. Could be both. Okay? Folks, thank you very much for coming. I'll be available for questions at the Freedom Law School table, and hope you join hand with us, and we look forward to seeing you next year at more of these conferences. Good night, everybody.